We have everybody.
This meeting is being recorded.
I'm
All
s-
right.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. Miss McCray, can you please make me co-host so I can record a backup?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. It is not giving me the option, but I can send you over a copy of the recording once it's finished uploading.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Well, greetings and good afternoon to everybody. It is now 2 o'clock on the 16th of February, 2022. We are conducting this hearing virtually via Zoom, and we're here for a public hearing on abandonment petition AB 779 to consider an application received from Lidl US LLC to abandon certain unimproved public right-of-way located adjacent to Walter Johnson Drive in Germantown. My name is Jose Tamana, and I am the county executive's designated hearing officer with the county's Department of Transportation. This right-of-way abandonment hearing is being conducted pursuant to Section 49-62F of the Montgomery County Code. My role in the abandonment process is to receive testimony concerning the abandonment request and then write a report and recommendation to the county executive concerning the applicant's petition for abandonment. In order to do this, I will be considering statements made at the hearing, written comments received within the comment period, and comments will be accepted until March 2nd, 2022 at 5 p.m. and any document submitted to support or explain a position. The report and recommendation would then be forwarded to the county executive for consideration, and the executive will then forward the report to the county and the county executive's recommendation to the county council. It is the county council that will decide whether to grant or deny the applicant's petition for abandonment. For those who wish to submit written comments, please submit them to Mr. Eric Willis at the Montgomery County Department of Transportation, 100 Edison Park Drive, 4th floor, Gaithersburg, Maryland, 20878, or email them to eric.willis@montgomerycountymd.gov by March 2nd, 2022. In this case, the applicant is seeking the abandonment of unimproved land previously dedicated as public right-of-way that is located adjacent to the Walter Johnson Drive in Germantown. As I understand it, this request is being brought in order to assemble this land with surrounding land owned or controlled by the applicant, and upon which the applicant plans to construct and operate a new grocery store. There are a number of representatives for the applicant here today, and they'll be making a presentation shortly that addresses these issues and sets forth their case for why the subject rights of way should be abandoned. Before we get into that presentation, there are a few ground rules I'd like to cover before Mr. Willis introduces the abandonment exhibits into the record. First, please turn off or silence your cell phones. Second, as an issue of decorum, all participants must be given their due consideration. Those seeking to offer comments following the close of the petitioner's case for abandonment are asked to be mindful of time and to limit their comments to relevant matters. Such comments should be confined to less than 3 minutes. If an interruption occurs, I will give the individual their first warning. If there is a second interruption, I'll give the individual a second warning and they will be muted. And if the same individual receives a third warning, that person will be removed from the call. And if there are several people making interruptions, I may close this hearing. I don't anticipate any of that happening today, but I just want to make sure that we read out the rules. Following Mr. Willis's introduction, the applicant will submit its case for why it believes the right-of-way should be abandoned. After the applicant has completed its case, those who have registered to speak will be afforded the opportunity to make relevant comments. So with that, I'll hand it over to Eric.
Thank you, Mr. Tamana. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eric Willis. I'm the chief of the property acquisition section within MCDOT. And it is my section that's responsible for the administration of requests for abandonment. As Mr. Tamana noted earlier, this process is governed by the Montgomery County Code, specifically Article 49, Section 6. Code Section 4962 actually sets forth certain requirements for notice of the hearing, both to members of the public as well as to certain government agencies. And as part of that process, my office has collected a number of exhibits with those comments, and I will shortly introduce those exhibits into the hearing record. If TR, if you wouldn't mind pulling up the exhibit list on the screen, I'd appreciate it. One thing I wanted to note before we get into the exhibits is this hearing was originally scheduled for December 15th due to an error on my part, frankly, in getting the notices to the government agencies for their responses. We had to reschedule this hearing until today. And so that's the reason as we go through the exhibits, you're going to see 2 executive orders as well as 2 proofs of advertisement through the newspaper that we utilize, the Washington Times. So if we can just go through the list of exhibits. Exhibit A is the letter we received from Ms. Carrier on behalf of Lidl US LLC requesting the abandonment. This letter also attaches a series of exhibits. I believe it's A through E. Maybe we can just identify those exhibits as well. It also contains some illustrations which are helpful, and the applicant may be relying on some of those as part of the presentation. So Exhibit A to the applicant's letter we just saw was the meets and bounds description of the area that's being sought for abandonment. 13,451 square feet. Exhibit B is the survey depicting the area being sought for abandonment. Exhibit C is the original deed of dedication that dedicated this right-of-way in fee simple back in 1996. And you kind of make it out at the top there, the LIBOR folio reference is for where it's recorded in land records. I think that's 14594, page 53. Exhibit, yes, exhibit, we don't E. Oh, there we go. Exhibit D is the opinion from the Montgomery County Planning Board regarding the preliminary plan application that was been submitted by the applicant for the development of the adjacent land, actually incorporating the abandonment area. I believe there was an exhibit E, which was, there we go, so the concept plan of the proposed development. The area for abandonment is kind of right through the middle. You can kind of see right just to the left. Right up the middle of the gray section, the lower gray section. And I think there's another illustration down the bottom left which shows where the right of way is. Yeah, right there. Okay. Okay, so moving on to our hearing exhibit B. That's an aerial photo with the abandonment area highlighted in red. It's adjacent to the. One thing to point out, the property to the right is under contract with the applicant. There is also an additional parcel to the left of the abandonment area that is also under contract to the applicant. Hearing exhibit C is the original executive order, which was authorizing a hearing for December 15th of 2021. As I mentioned earlier, that hearing was postponed until today. So we have our following exhibit D, I believe. There it is. It's the executive order authorizing the hearing for today. Exhibit E is the proof of the advertisement that was run in the Washington Times for the original hearing date. This advertisement ran at the bottom there, December 8th and December 1st. One thing to note, the QR code that's embedded into the advertisement, that was embedded in other notices that we sent out as well. I believe that by this point, most people are familiar with the QR code process. You scan the code with your phone, and it automatically takes you to a web page, and that web page is a registration form for the hearing. It'll be in a subsequent exhibit here. We did print out the registration form page. The following exhibit is the proof of the advertisement that ran for today's hearing. And this advertisement was run in the January 26th edition, as well as the February 2nd edition. These are all run through the Washington Times newspaper.
Exhibit E.
Excuse me?
Exhibit E.
Oh, Exhibit E, yes. Thank you. This is just a picture of the sign that was posted at the property, and you can again see the QR code sticker that we had put onto the sign, again directing people to the registration or sign-up page form that was created for this.
Exhibit F.
Exhibit F is an email that I received from Greg Wims, who was our director of the Up County Regional Services Center up in Germantown, advising me that he had made an announcement to his Up County Advisory Board meeting. This was Monday night, that would have been Monday, February 7th, as well as reached out to the Germantown Historical Society to provide additional notice of the hearing.
Exhibit G.
This is our registration sign-up page. So when you click on the QR code, you're directed to this page, and we provide a brief summary and then some questions, basic questions to get background information from the people who are responding, and asking if they'd like to participate in the hearing, how they hear about the hearing, etc. I checked this form shortly before the hearing today. Mr. Hearing Officer, just to make a representation that no one had responded or signed up to register for the hearing.
H.
The next set of exhibits are comments that we received from government agencies regarding the requested abandonment. This is one we received from our Montgomery County Department of Transportation, recommending approval with certain conditions as set forth in the memorandum.
Exhibit I.
Exhibit I is an email I received from our Division of Traffic, indicating no objections to the proposed abandonment.
J.
J is email received from our Fire Marshal's office, indicating no objections to the requested abandonment.
Exhibit K.
K is email received from the police department, with no comments regarding the proposed abandonment.
Exhibit L. Oh, my apologies. Let me zoom
Oh,
in.
yes, there we go. Exhibit L, yes, this is comments we received from our Department of Permitting Services. No objection. Did sort of raise a question about the roadway network as that sort of goes through the preliminary planning process. It's not really an objection, it's more of a comment about that.
Exhibit
Following
N.
exhibit, thank you, is memorandum received from the Montgomery County Planning Office recommending the abandonment, approving of the abandonment request with certain conditions. I believe this memorandum also includes several exhibits that were provided by the Planning Office. including the applicant's letter. And there may be some that are duplicative.
Yep, that is correct. We have attachment A, and then the all of the other exhibits that we've already read into record.
Right.
Exhibit N.
Exhibit N is a letter received from WSSC indicating that they had no objection to the request, as they do not maintain any existing easements or facilities within the area to be abandoned.
Exhibit O.
O is an email received from Verizon, a representative of Verizon, indicating that they do not have any facilities or issues with the, they say with the lot being developed, so I take that to mean they have no objection to the proposed abandonment.
And Exhibit P.
Exhibit P is an email received from a representative of Washington Gas, also indicating no objections to the abandonment, as they do not have any gas facilities in this area. Gas facilities are in Wisteria Drive and Germantown Road.
Exhibit Q.
Exhibit Q is a email received from Pepco, actually just yesterday. Not necessarily objecting to the abandonment, but just asking questions. And so there will be time while the hearing record is still open, which we can try to resolve those responses since they were received late.
That's the last exhibit that we have.
Thank you. I believe that's all the exhibits, and I'll turn things back over to the hearing officer.
Princess, you should be able to share your screen now. Let me know if you have any trouble.
Thank you. Should we proceed?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Françoise Carrier. As you know, I'm land use counsel for the applicant, Lidl, and I won't add to Mr. Willis's introduction. He and you both laid out the basics. I have two witnesses. The first will be David Simez, who is with Lidl, and he'll be testifying about the project site, what the project is, the site, Lidl's status as a contract purchaser, and the need for the abandonment. And my second witness will be Patrick LeVay, who is the applicant's engineer for this project, and he'll go through in a little more detail all of the exhibits that we submitted earlier, and then of course we're happy to answer any questions that you might have. Mr. Simez, would you please state your name, company name, and business address for the record?
Hello, good afternoon. My name is David Simez. My company is Lidl US LLC, and our address is 3500 South Clark Street, Arlington, Virginia, 22202.
And what is your position with Lidl, and how long have you been with the company?
I'm currently a development manager with Lidl, and I've been here nearly 5 years.
I have Mr. Simez's resume. Would you like me to have him identify it? So I'll share it on the screen, or is that not necessary? Mr. Tamada?
Yeah, if you can share it on, with
Sure.
on the screen, yeah, that should be good.
Chris, it's always easier to share in theory than it is in
I
actuality.
have it pulled up if you'd like me to go
Oh, do
ahead.
you?
Yeah.
Sure, that would be great.
No problem.
Mr. Simez, does this look like your resume?
Yes, it does.
I'd like to introduce Mr. Simez's resume as an exhibit, please. And I have a few more questions, and then I'll ask Mr. LeVay to share his screen to start our presentation, because I'd like Mr. Simez to speak to a couple of the slides. Mr. Simez, what is Lidl's business?
Lidl is in the business of retail grocery.
Is Lidl currently expanding into the US market?
Yes, we are.
And that includes the Washington, D.C. area?
Yes, it does.
What are your general responsibilities at Lidl?
My general responsibilities include site selection, due diligence, hiring of professional consultants such as architects, engineers, attorneys, and receiving approvals and entitlements to build the site.
How long have you been doing this kind of work, either at Lidl or elsewhere?
Nearly 5 years at Lidl and about 15 years total.
Thank you. Does Lidl have plans to build a store in Germantown?
Yes, we do.
And where is that site located?
19430 Walter Johnson Road in Germantown, Maryland.
Mr. LeVay, may I ask you to please put our presentation up on the screen?
Yes, I will. Make this a little more. Come on.
And if we could go to
There
the
we go.
second slide, please.
That's not working. Sorry.
Oh,
I may have to keep it like this because it will. Does this look okay? Is that legible for you? Big enough?
it's
Yeah, it
fine
looks
for
fine.
my vid.
Okay.
Great. Okay, so Mr. Semez, what does this photo depict?
This is an aerial view of the site showing an approximate location of the abandonment area in the oval.
Okay, and does this accurately depict the site as far as you're aware?
Yes, it does.
Does Lidl own or have a contract to purchase all of the land that makes up this site except for the abandonment area?
Yes, we do.
And please tell us what the proposed project consists of.
The proposed projects consist of building a surface mounted parking lot adjacent to a retail grocery store.
And Mr. LeVay, let's see the next slide. Mr. Semez, does this depict the grocery store building and the parking lot that you just mentioned?
Yes, it does.
And what are your responsibilities for this project?
I'll be handling the design, development, due diligence, entitlement, and permitting process.
And do you know roughly where the proposed abandonment is on this site plan that we're looking at?
Yes, it's right in the middle of our building on the bottom of this image.
Does Lidl intend to build any road connections as part of this project?
Yes, you can see there's 2 road connections on this image.
And is this abandonment necessary for Lidl to be able to move forward with the project?
Yes, this abandonment is critical to the development of this project.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, just that Lidl is excited about coming to Germantown.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Semez. That completes my questions for you. Then
Thank
I'd
you.
like to call Patrick LeVay. I guess might be useful to put up Mr. LeVay's resume.
I'll stop sharing my screen.
Ms. McCray, if you could do that for us. Meanwhile, Mr. LeVay, please state your name, company, and business address for the record.
Patrick LeVay. I'm with McCrease, Hendricks, and Glasscock, also known as MHG. And our address is 9220 Whiteman Road, Suite 120, Montgomery Village, Maryland.
What is your position with MHG and how long have you been with the company?
I am a vice president and senior project manager, and I've been with the company for 15 years.
What are your general responsibilities there?
I am responsible for project-specific management and oversight of MHG's civil engineering, land planning, and land surveying services.
Are you a licensed professional engineer in Maryland?
I am.
How long have you been a licensed engineer?
12 years.
Could you estimate roughly how many building projects you've been involved in as an engineer?
I would say it's probably somewhere between 100 and 200.
And have you testified previously as an expert witness in civil engineering?
Yes.
Where have you provided that testimony?
In Montgomery County, Maryland, and Frederick County, Maryland.
And have you been recognized as an expert?
Yes.
Is this a copy of your resume on the screen?
Yes.
I would like to submit Mr. LeVay's resume for the record and request that he be recognized as an expert in civil engineering. I don't know, Mr. Tamata, if that's a request that you'll rule on at this time.
No, it's fine.
Okay, great. So Mr. LeVay, would you please then put the presentation back up on the screen? I'd like to ask you to provide some background on the project for which this abandonment has been requested. So here we are back at the first slide that we looked at. First, what is your firm's role in this project?
We are the civil engineer, land planner, and landscape architect of record. Oh, and land surveyor as well.
What does this slide depict?
This is an aerial photo of the existing condition of the development site. The development site itself is bordered in the red area. And the abandonment area is the blue oval shape in the center of the red bordered area.
Can you please give us a brief description of the site and the immediate surroundings, including what uses are being conducted on the neighboring properties?
Sure. So true north on this page is actually to the top right. So we're a little bit skewed here from north just to keep a nice square image. But to the plan north, it would be technically northwest is Germantown Road. The lanes that are closest to the red border would be eastbound. And then Wisteria Drive is to the right of the development site, separated by some additional property. And on the south end, at the low end of the page, is Walter Johnson Road. The red area includes 3 different pieces of land currently that will be subdivided eventually. Actually, excuse me, 4 if you include the area of this abandonment. As I mentioned before, the abandonment area is roughly shown in the oval. And then to the left of that, there is a long, narrow strip of unrecorded parcel that's in the heavily wooded area. And then what's labeled as the Germantown Copy Center in the top right corner of the red box as another lot. And then the lower right corner of this red box is actually a piece of a lot that Lidl will be acquiring and reconsolidating with their subdivision. To the south and left of this red box there's an existing 7-Eleven gas station and convenience store. And in the lower left side of the box, which would be the south corner of the site, or just off the south corner of the site, is a Verizon facility.
And what about the top right corner there? There's a building.
That is a Mid-Atlantic Federal Credit Union Bank, and to the below them on the page is a parking facility that's associated with that bank.
Great, thank you. Let's go to the next slide, please. This is not the slide that I was hoping would be next.
This one,
So
perhaps?
let's go. Yeah, that's the one I was hoping for. Thank you. So did your office prepare this exhibit?
We did.
And what does it, can you explain what it depicts?
Sure. Similar to the aerial that we just looked at, the blue border is the Lidl development site. It's what they intend to develop and what they'll be purchasing. The red bordered area is the area that was conveyed in 1996 by a deed of dedication to the right of way. And then the area that's shaded in green within the red is the area that's subject of our discussion today. It's the abandonment area.
Great, thank you very much. Now I'd like to go through with you the background of the dedication that included the abandonment area we're discussing and identify some documents. Next slide, please. What is this document and what does it tell us about the abandonment area we're discussing?
This is on the left is a legal description or a portion of it, and the right is a sketch showing the area, a meets and bounds description and sketch of the area that's to be abandoned, which is a portion of the original 1996 dedication. And it's approximately, well, it is 13,451 square feet.
Okay. Next slide, please. And what is this document and what does it tell us about the abandonment area we're discussing?
This is the deed of dedication that was recorded in 1996. It tells us that the area was dedicated to Montgomery County in fee simple. And it does show that the ownership was conveyed to the county from the owner at the time.
Thank you. Next slide. And what is this document, Mr. LeVay?
This is the planning board's opinion for preliminary plan 1990-0680, which was approved in October of 1995.
And what property did that preliminary plan application pertain to?
That preliminary plan application pertained to all of the property subject to this, well, that's been shown in this discussion, with the exception of the sliver of land, the unrecorded land on the south end of the site.
I wonder if it'd be worthwhile for just a moment to go back to the site acquisition exhibit, and perhaps you could use your cursor to just indicate what land was included in that preliminary plan.
Sure. So it was, as I follow here, I trace, it was all of this here.
Great. Thank you. Let's go back. And was there language in this planning board opinion that's relevant to the abandonment area?
Yes, as highlighted here in yellow is condition number 4, which states blanketly that dedication to all rights of way is to be provided in conformance with the Germantown Center study.
And what was that study, and how is it relevant to this hearing?
That was it's similar to, say, a master plan or a sector plan, but it was actually a guidance document that was adopted in 1992 following the adoption of the 1989 Germantown master plan as additional urban design guidance for the Germantown town sector area.
And what was required by this condition, the dedication in this condition?
So for this particular property, the dedication required was along Walter Johnson Road. And then there was a recommendation to have an internal connection through the property that would marry up with what's also called Walter Johnson Road now to the south of the site.
Let's move on to the next slide.
Oops.
What are we seeing on this slide?
On the left-hand side is the 2009 Germantown master plan. It's an excerpt, it's a picture that shows a road segment through the subject property as recommended. And on the right is the more recent 2019 Mark Rails Community Master Plan, which continues to show this connection, albeit it has some caveats about it being a possible connection.
And the one on the right, the more recent one, does it show 2 pieces of road segment, one heading more or less north-south and the other heading more or less east-west?
Yes.
And does the plan that your office prepared for Lidl for this project include the construction of road connections that will fulfill the master plan goals for connectivity that are shown on these excerpts?
Yes.
Next image, please. Mr. LeVay, what are we looking at here?
This is a color site plan of the proposed development. What you see here is in red, the approximate area of the requested abandonment in the middle of the property, in the middle of the proposed building, labeled as grocery store. And then the proposed site design surrounding that new grocery store shows new drive number 1, which is the more or less east-west connection through the property, and new drive 2 is the more or less north-south connection through the property, connecting to Walter Johnson Road. To the left of new drive 1 is actually also called Walter Johnson Road, but that is a public right-of-way. So effectively, we've taken the red area and just kind of moved it to the right on this image and provided the same through connection. I'll also note there is, as you can see here, shaded in gray between the site and Wisteria Drive, an existing drive aisle that provides a further east-west connection to Wisteria Drive, and that's existing and is within an existing ingress-egress easement.
Great. And would you consider this to be a good location for these road connections from an engineering perspective?
Yes, a couple of reasons. One, that it allows us to reuse new drive number 2 allows us to reuse the existing curb cut location that's there today, which being on the curve the way it is, it actually provides optimal site distance, while also enabling us to meet the master plan goals for connectivity through this site, and building placement and circulation and other things.
Thank you. Next slide, please. We saw this image earlier when Mr. Semez was testifying. For the record, what is this image and was it prepared by your office?
This image was prepared by our office. It's an excerpt from a conceptual site plan that we submitted through Park and Planning last year.
Can you please point out the proposed road connections on this image?
Sure. So just left of first of all, the development site is all the colored area. Just to the left of this development site, you'll see, as I described, there's Walter Johnson Road, public right of way. And then we have the more or less east-west connection through the property here. There's a difference in color here because we do have some traffic calming measures in the form of different alternative paving treatments in the middle of the site. But effectively, there's a paved connection from east-west through the property and then north-south through the property, as I described, the existing curb cut on Walter Johnson to the south, and that marries up with the site in an L shape.
Thank you. And could you point out roughly where the abandonment area would be on this slide?
Sure, it's pretty faint, but I'll trace it here. It's right in the middle of the building. There's a line here that comes down and it goes up here just about into the parking lot and then comes back down kind of in a finger shape here. And it's almost smack dead in the middle of the building.
How is that the proposed abandonment area currently being used?
It's actually unused today.
In your professional opinion, is it possible for Lidl to build this project in accordance with the Montgomery County Master Plan goals without the abandonment?
No, it's not. We studied this extensively, both internally and with planning staff, and found that this is the configuration that meets the goals for the county.
Thank you. I have one more slide I'd like you to discuss.
That's the last one I have in mind.
You don't have the most updated version. I did. Let me see if I can share my screen, because I added a slide because, well, I'll let you answer questions rather than testifying myself. But let me see if I can pull that up. This should be it. Can you all see this?
Yes.
Great. So this was just to show for the record, this is the same presentation. I'll just flip through the pages so that you can all see it's exactly what Mr. LeVay just testified about. And do you recognize this image, Mr. LeVay?
Yes, this is a GIS image from Montgomery County.
Are you familiar with the report that the planning staff submitted, or the planning department submitted into the record for this hearing?
Yes.
Does this appear in that report?
Yes.
And can you explain what we're seeing here first?
You're seeing the, well, first of all, in red is this area subject of abandonment. You see a little bit more than the development property here, bordered in blue. So the actual development property, the southern edge, or I guess bottom left edge of it, would be the south limits of the development. However, the northern limits actually are between the two. There's polygons there that are shaded darker and a darker orange there. Between the two of those actually is where the proposed Lidl site stops and runs down the page on that same line that's parallel with Wisteria Drive, which is the road furthest to the right on the page.
So I'm going to try and run my cursor where I think the line is. Can you just tell us if I got it right?
Yep.
I'm thinking the line, I think I see a faint line on here between these two.
Yep.
Lots. So I think the line comes down here and then it maybe angles a little bit.
Yeah.
Was that about right?
That's correct.
So would you please explain why the planning department identified a subject property that's larger than the project site that we showed on our slides?
I don't know exactly their intentions, but I would speculate that, when this was created, we were still having discussions, and there was an early part to the preliminary plan process where, because this was all created as part of an original subdivision that included that full blue polygon, and because Lidl is purchasing and consolidating a portion of one of the other properties within that blue polygon, the staff may have felt like the entire original subdivision plus the sliver to the south should be in this image. But I don't think it was intended to convey anything different with regards to the matter at hand today.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I could also just point out that, just roughly, generally speaking, that it just must be an error in the county's GIS system, but there is the public roadway that I described as sort of the secondary or duplicate Walter Johnson Road is not shown as in that lighter color as a public road just to the south of the site, but that in fact there is a dedicated public right of way that runs right through there that comes into our site. So just to avoid any confusion there, that realistically should be shown in that lighter color.
And is that here where I'm moving my cursor?
Yes.
Okay, great. Anything else, Mr. LeVay?
Nope.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your assistance with that. That concludes our witness testimony, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that the hearing officer may have.
I do not have any questions at this time. Is there anybody else that has registered or come in during this time for comments?
I am
Kiara?
double checking right now. I don't believe so.
Okay,
No, sir, none in the chat.
okay.
No, and no responses to the registration form.
Okay, well, I think I do not have any more questions. So at this time, we can then conclude this hearing. The record will still remain open until March 2nd, 2022 for any written comments that may come in. So with that, we can conclude this hearing.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.